Hello and welcome back to the Daily Crisis. Today's video is going to be a little different because we're breaking down your MCP hot takes. We've got a massive amount of submissions, so today we're covering 20 hot takes from the community. If this video does well, I'll absolutely do a part 2, so if you want your take featured next time, make sure to hit the like and drop a comment. So without further ado, let's get right into the hot takes. Claw is underrated. Dude is a monster if used correctly with hand ninjas and Bob, and an Akantu or Hela. This one's interesting, and I actually agree with part of it. Claw is absolutely underrated, especially when people really lean into his leadership instead of just splashing him. Pairing him with bodies like the hand ninjas and Bob make a lot of sense, and Akantu or Hela both help cover some of his weaknesses. That said, I still think his leadership is just a little bit underpowered compared to the other options in the game. It works, but it doesn't feel exciting or game-changing. A small tweak, like an extra power or some form of healing, could push him from underrated to a legit threat. Right now, he's solid, but not quite there. Gwenpool and Squirrel Girl often take people by surprise in games. I like this take because it's true in a very specific way. Gwenpool and Squirrel Girl catch a lot of people off guard, mostly because nobody ever sees them across the table. When they show up, players always don't know what to expect. The problem is that surprise alone doesn't really carry games. Gwenpool feels like a worse Deadpool at a higher threat, and Squirrel Girl struggles to justify her slot when there are stronger, more reliable 4-threat options available. They're not unplayable, but they're definitely outclassed, and that's usually a sign that a slight tweak will be coming soon. Leadership should be able to be multi-affiliation if applicable. Examples including Red Skull being Hydra or Cabal, or Mystique's leadership, which is from when she's not leading the Brotherhood, so make it Crimson or Brotherhood. This idea is very cool thematically, and I get why people want it. On paper, it makes total sense, and Marvel lore supports it. The issue here is balance. MCP leaderships are already some of the strongest abilities in the game, and letting them jump affiliations could very quickly break things wide open. If this ever happens, I think it has to be limited and controlled. Something closer to a team tactic card or a conditional effect rather than a permanent rules change. Me and my friends find team tactic cards annoying and don't play with them. This is a scorching hot take, and I'm firmly on the other side of it. Team tactic cards are one of the core pillars of MCP. They add decision-making, timing, and thematic moments that define the game. Now, are there annoying cards? Absolutely. Patch-up is the obvious example, but removing tactics entirely strips out a huge layer of depth and turns MCP into something much flatter. The game is better with them, even when they're frustrating. Bring back Age of Ultron. Yes, bring it back, but not exactly as it was. Every revive effect in MCP now comes with a meaningful drawback. Ghost Rider needs a sacrifice, Phoenix takes time and setup. Age of Ultron really didn't have that, and that's why it was such a problem. If Ultron came back weaker, or in stages, or required some kind of cost, I think it would work. The concept is awesome, it just needs modern MCP design philosophy applied to it. Web Warriors have been overtuned since launch, but they're so popular people are afraid to say it out loud, and they're too much of a cash cow for AMG to nerf properly. This one's spicy, but I think it goes a bit too far. Web Warriors are strong, no question about it, but I don't think they're that overtuned. They have very real weaknesses. Mystic attacks shred them, and characters that bypass defense mobs punish them very hard. Also, once dazed, most Web Warriors get noticeably squishier. They're a strong faction, but not unbeatable, and that's what matters. There are too many models in the game that are unplayable compared to newer models. There's truth here, and it's something AMG is actively addressing. Power creep is real, especially when you compare older models to newer releases. Scarlet Witch vs. Blue Marvel is a great example. One clearly outshines the other in most situations. The good news is that repackages and updates are slowly bringing older models back into relevance, and that trend seems to be continuing. The game should have a randomness to activation, just like Star Wars Shatterpoint. I actually love this idea, but only in a very specific context. As a universal rule, no. That would be completely undermining the priority rules and planning. But as a leadership or like a scenario mechanic, that could be really interesting. Some high risk, high reward, and very thematic if done right. Baron Zemo from the second core box is a more interesting and fun character / model than the original. I'ma have to hard agree with you here. Zemo 2 is way more interesting to play. His kit creates cool movements and real decisions. The problem is simple. 3-threat Zemo exists. Until that changes, Zemo 2 is always going to be overshadowed. A small nerf to 3-threat Zemo would immediately open the door for Zemo 2 to shine. Phoenix is actually OP, just not on the current Crisis set. This is one of my favorite takes in the entire video. Phoenix is very close to being broken. She's just waiting for the right crisis environment. On E-maps with central scoring, she would be terrifying. A small nudge, like better Phoenix token management or slightly stronger control, could push her over the edge. She's one of, if not the most thematic releases AMG has ever done, and I want her to feel as powerful as she should. Baron Zemo is perfectly balanced and should never be changed. I'm gonna have to disagree with you on this one. Right now, Baron Zemo is too efficient for a 3 threat. He brings incredible mobility, rerolls, and action economy, all value in one package. The biggest issue is that he completely overshadows Baron Zemo 2. When one version of a character invalidates another, that's usually a balance issue. Zemo 1 doesn't need to be gutted, but he probably needs to be toned down just enough so the other version can actually exist in the game. I wish there were more narrative-driven scenarios or co-op/PvE game types like the Ultimate Encounters. I absolutely agree with this. MCP has one of the strongest licensing in tabletop gaming, but very little narrative or co-op support. Marvel stories are built for scenarios, branching outcomes, and cinematic moments. The new Crisis Cards box dipped into this narrative just a little bit, and it is a step in the right direction, but a true co-op or PvE mode would be incredible. Imagine an automated villain system, Marvel zombies, or boss-style encounters where you and a friend work together. This is an area with massive potential, and I really hope AMG explores it. Gladiator should be a Guardian affiliated. He's been on the team. Yeah, I don't get this one either. Gladiator has absolutely been a Guardian, and thematically it makes total sense. From a gameplay standpoint, he's also in a weird spot. He's not overpowered, but he really doesn't have a home where he shines. He wants bodyguards and support, but without an affiliation, he ends up feeling homeless. Giving him guardians would at least give him a place to belong, and it wouldn't break anything. I'd like to see basic, simple verticality rules added in MCP. Falling off buildings and not punching someone at the top of the building, with or without cover even, when you're standing at the bottom of it. This is a really fun idea, but MCP wasn't really designed with verticality in mind. Right now, terrain is about positioning and line of sight, not really elevation. That said, I would like to see AMG explore this more carefully. Even something simple like falling damage or flight interacting differently with elevation. This could add depth without overcomplicating the game. Flight characters avoiding fall damage alone could make some smaller flyers more relevant. Vulture is fine as is. People say he's trash and needs a rework. If he had one more stamina on each side, he'd be great. I disagree with this idea that Vulture is fine as is. He absolutely needs help. He's just too fragile. His gainer being locked to range 2 is brutal, and he has no safe way to generate power. When Vulture gets close, he usually just dies. One more stamina on each side would definitely help, but I also think extending his gainer range would go a long way. Unfortunately, AMG seems pretty content with where he is, so I don't expect any changes soon. Zemo 2 isn't actually bad and would be one of the most splashed models if Zemo 1's bubble was restricted to be more of an in-affiliation superpower. This take is spot on. Zemo 2 isn't bad, he's actually very fun and solid. The only reason he doesn't see play is because Zemo 1 exists and does too much for too little. If Zemo 1's reroll bubble was restricted or adjusted, Zemo 2 would instantly become a real splash option. I've said it before, a Tigra-style reroll bubble feels like what Zemo's leadership should be. That when playing in friendly games, any model could be good. This is just plain wrong. Some of these models' rules, even at a casual level, are just downright hot garbage. I disagree with this pretty strongly. I don't think there are models that are truly unplayable. Some are just at the very bottom of the power curve. This issue isn't that certain models are garbage. It's the other models are too good. When characters like Shang-Chi exist, they crowd out options at the same threat level. That doesn't mean the weaker models are unusable, they're just overshadowed. 3 threat Spider-Man is horrendous. Everybody point and boo this man. 3 threat Spider-Man is one of my favorite characters in the game, but he has a very high skill ceiling. If you don't manage his power correctly, he feels terrible. If you do, he can absolutely carry games. He has damage, displacement, and placement all on gainer attacks. You just have to be disciplined with your power spending. In the right hands, he's incredible. Into the Spider-Verse fixes Venom. Venom is a malaligned character, and with good reason. He is horrendously slow. However, Web Warrior's new leadership gives him range 1 places on skulls. With a medium base and out-of-action activation attacks, he feels so much more mobile. I feel like he will be a sleeper hit in the new Web Warriors list. This is something I honestly hadn't considered. And it's a really smart observation. Venom's biggest weakness has always been his speed. Giving him a range 1 place on skulls helps him out a lot, especially with his medium base and out of activation attacks. I still think he struggles into long range energy attacks. Iron Man absolutely farms him, but this might be the closest Venom has ever been to feeling truly playable. I definitely want to test this out more. There has always been one overly pushed OP faction in MCP, no matter what AMG has tried, so they should just push every character to the moon and see what happens. I agree with the first half. MCP has always had a top faction, but I strongly disagree with the second half. Pushing everything to the moon just creates chaos and removes meaningful decision making. Instead of a power creep upward, AMG should be trimming the most problematic outliers back down. MCP is at its best when no matchup feels like it's an automatic loss. Last up, we have Lady Mastermind is how all pay to avoid Mystic defensive power should work. Pay 2 power, only lose 1 defense dice. This is actually a really solid design take. For higher threat characters like Ebony Maw, this kind of scaling makes a lot of sense. It rewards power management without completely invalidating Mystic attacks. For lower threat characters like Mysterio, the harsher penalties keep some balance. Context matters here, and Lady Mastermind is a good example of it done right. And that's going to do it for today's MCP hot takes. If I didn't get to your hot take, that just means we have to do another one of these. If you want a part 2, make sure to hit the like button, leave a comment, and tell me which take you agreed with or completely disagreed with the most. I'll have a link in the description where you can submit hot takes for the next video, and trust me, I'll read every single one. Thanks for watching the Daily Crisis, and I'll see you in the next one.